how valuable was that for a team, and what has it meant to you to see him embrace that?
Yeah, I'd say probably first the most important thing is he's totally focused on football. So it's been great. He's been in the facility in this off season, getting in his workouts, treatment. With other players, building those relationships, but at the same time, it was fun to see him at there was a Nuggets game and an Avalanche game in the same weekend, and I think that's great for him, just for the fans to see him out and about in the community and starting to get involved in some community efforts. I know he did some hospital visits, and I think he's going to be hosting a youth camp. So. But again, he's totally focused on football. Understands there's some other things that go with it, but he's a worker and gonna continue to improve.
Greg, what were your thoughts on how free agency went for the Broncos?
Overall, I was really pleased. I thought George and Sean put together a really good plan and executed it well. I think we got better on the field, and frankly, the makeup of the team I think improved with the guys that we brought in. And it's interesting. Each year, our first year, we were really forced to be aggressive because we had big holes on the offensive and defensive line. Last year in free agency, we had to be more measured because we didn't have much cap space. And this year, I'd say we were more opportunistic, which was. We had some key needs at inside linebacker, safety, tight end, and they identified some players that really would be a good fit for us and got those done. So I was really pleased.
Greg, you mentioned the cap space last year. You guys made the playoffs despite having the most dead cap money in the league, and I'm curious what you kind of just learned about that situation, and also was it something of a mindset to not allow that to be kind of, any sort of excuse for not being able to compete?
Yeah, I think we've got the right people in place now with our ownership group, Sean, George, others, where we're not going to make excuses. So, our job is to put the best football team on the field each season, no matter what the constraints are. And you're going to have obstacles that come up, whether it's injuries or, something happens with a player, financial restraints with the cap, but we're not going to make excuses. We're going to do everything we can to be competitive each year.
Greg, when you go from being a sports fan your whole life to then owning a team, how amused are you when people get into how y'all spend the money, whether it's dead money or a check to a player or extra coaches that may not be in the building, or what a new stadium would look like, where it should go, but they're essentially spending your money versus the fan. When you're a fan, you're like, hey, well, you can relate. So how's it being on the other side?
Yeah, they don't always. I don't always agree with what the opinions are. But that being said, when you have fans that are like our fan base, which is just incredible, they're gonna be passionate. They're gonna have strong views, and I would never want that to go away. So that's what makes our fan base terrific, is that they do care. And like I mentioned, we put out that survey on the stadium a year or two ago, and it was completely mixed in terms of what people wanted. But it's great to hear what our fans care about, and I love their passion.
As you work through the stadium process, do you reach a point where you think about just the time span from starting to ending, where you're coming up to a point where a decision needs to be made, or sort of where you feel like you are in that process?
We're continuing our diligence. As I mentioned before, it's complex. We haven't ruled anything out. We're still looking at the current site, other sites around Denver, Lone Tree, Aurora. We don't have a set timetable for making a decision. We obviously have our lease that ends at a certain date, which is a date that we could focus on, but. It could be something that would happen earlier than that. If we needed to, we could be in our current stadium longer. So we don't have a set timetable at this point.
When you're thinking along those lines, do you think about the whole package at once, or is it you decide renovate or build, and then if build new location, or are you thinking what is the best thing we can do as a whole package? Does the question make sense?
Yeah, we're really focused on what's the best option long term, and we're thinking, and we want to create what's the best option for the next 40 or 50 years, not 10 or 20 years.
In the short range, in the short range, for training camp this year? Have you guys kind of gotten your arms around what that's gonna look like for trying to get fans in the facility this year?
We're coming up with a good plan and, you know, want to be in our facility for training camp, given it's a great place. You know, teams actually like coming to us for the joint practices. You know, it's not going to be perfect this year. We'll probably come up with something where we could accommodate 800 to 900 fans in some temporary bleachers. But we'll have it open, you know, we'll have I don't know the exact number, but we'll have a number of practices that are open to fans, and we'll accommodate them and really want to make that happen. And again, the intent is for this to only be one training camp where it really affects us.
Greg, with that NFLPA survey that came out a couple of months ago, how much weight do you put into that, and how much do you look at that to try to make the experience as best for the players as possible?
Yeah, it's not the only input that we look at, but it's certainly important to listen to it. And we learned some things last year. We made some changes, so we added the family facility inside the stadium, so players' families have a place before, during, and after games if they want to be in there. There's still some things in the survey that we know we need to address. I think our worst grade was on the locker room, but that'll be addressed with the new training facility that we're building. But it's always good to get the feedback, and I'll have some conversations with players as follow-up just to see if there was something out of that we should also learn more about.
Greg, Sean talked this morning about how both he talks with you and you have conversations about how your standards are higher for this team and what you can accomplish than where you are right now, or just making the playoffs. I guess, is that an everyday thing that you try to communicate, or how do you make that known with Sean, with George, with the team?
Yeah, that's been our mindset since we bought the team, which is we're going to continue to set higher expectations. Obviously, we had a really tough first season, but we're gonna continue to push. We're not satisfied at all with where we are. We think we're in a good place in terms of the building blocks that we've got set now. But we're in a tough division. Everybody's looking to improve, and we got work to do this off season to get to where we need to be.
Greg, back to the stadium, Final Fours this weekend, obviously. There'll never be another Final Four in Denver unless there's a domed stadium. What are your thoughts on a possible, domed or covered stadium where you can have Final Four, college championship games, those events that Denver can't have now?
That's definitely one of the options we're evaluating, whether it be a dome or a retractable roof. That's in the consideration set.
Time for a few more for Greg. Going back to, you started with Bo, we talked to George and Sean going into the offseason, and then again today. With that rookie or the young quarterback in place, have you noticed a difference in the approach to free agency and now as they get into their draft stuff because you have that position solidified?
Certainly, that's a big part of it, but also with like what we did with Garrett Bowles, extending him last year, that then relieves a need that we might have gone into this draft with. Certainly, signing an inside linebacker and a safety, that helps. But yeah, having a quarterback that you can build around, knowing you have more certainty around your financial structure and how you're going to deal with the cap is a big deal.
As you've talked to, you mentioned a couple of municipalities on the stadium front. What influence or impact does the physical location of the building, whether it's on your current site or somewhere else, have? Like, what is important about the decision of just literally where the stadium goes, or if it stays where it is?
A lot of things go into it. One is working with different government entities, whether it's the state or the city. But it's also where our fans are and where they want to be. Where can we do, if we're going to do development, which, as you know, there was a plan on our current site for development, so that's certainly an option that would go around the stadium. So there are a number of things that go into it.